So clearly, you're getting the impression that so much of the creative process is driven by a need to continue to be alive and to
very much
to eat. Yeah. So, I guess if I talk briefly about the scripting process, and then unless others have got anything they want to add, then we can perhaps move to specific questions. Does that sound okay to you guys? Yeah. Okay. So I talked about sort of the pitching process and sort of mapping out the arc, both of the overall story and the characters as well. When it comes to scripting, there's generally two approaches that you can take. The full script method versus the so-called sort of Marvel method. The former, the full script method, is clearly, as you've gathered, the one that I favour, and that's really where you have in mind, and of course, there's room to deviate from this, and the more you work with a particular artist and the more you trust them and things, then the greater scope there is for deviation, is a good thing. But generally speaking, I'll sit down and I spend a lot of time structuring the issue itself, but long before you get down to the dialogue, you need to make sure that the if you like, the rhythm of the story is right for those 20 pages now. It used to be 22. Wow, I don't think that was that wasn't. I don't think that was us.
That's the cue to eliminate one of us.
You're free.
I'm free. Yes. The commissions to do.
No, so you spend a lot of time structuring the issue to make sure that the pacing is correct. In More Than Meets the Eye, we like to have a cliffhanger as well, if we can, to get you to come back next month. And then the full script method is where page for page I'll have an idea precisely what needs to happen on that page. An indication as to the number of panels required to tell that particular scene or to get from the beginning to the end of that particular page. So I'll have an idea of panel count, and I would go so far, as you've heard through from Alex, to describe what needs to be in the panel. More Than Meets the Eye is, in several respects, a detailed book. The dialogue is detailed, the plots tend to be detailed. There's background information that comes into play later on. There's foreshadowing, there's callbacks, and all these other things, and that makes for a lengthy script. It also makes for detailed panel descriptions. And I mean, all that said, Alex referred to the first script where the chaos theory two-parter, and that was still early on in my comic scripting sort of career. So yeah, I think I definitely did over-describe, and both getting into my stride as a writer and coming to work so closely with Alex and realizing that you can make do with a lot less and trust the artist, and they'll do what needs to be done. But the reason why the More Than Meets the Eye scripts tend to still be lengthy, they're about 60 pages, 55 pages, for a 20 or 22 page issue, is because there's a lot of visual information in the series which comes back into play later on. So the full script method is essentially storyboarding. Really, you're describing the panels and what needs to be in them, and then you add the dialogue precisely. And the Marvel method is really you have a synopsis of what needs to happen in the issue. Sometimes you go as far as breaking it down into pages required to convey that scene, and then the artist will decide how many panels, what needs to be in the panels to convey that information, and then you'll add the dialogue at the end of the process. And actually, John and I worked Marvel method on Dark Cybertron, mainly because of isn't that right, James?
Mm-hmm,
Mainly because of time constraints. It was a 12-part series, the beginning and end of which were sort of running parallel to the ongoing series, and it was being written at speed. So we did that. I think, although he's not here to verify either of them, I think Andrew and John are still using the Marvel method.
Yeah, they are.
On Robots in Disguise, X-Rid.
So, just one question: if you were using the Marvel method, what happened when you got to issue 10 of Dark Cybertron, and I got this detailed script of what was going on?
As we approached the end of Dark Cybertron, it became more important to establish certain things. Maybe it's just you, Alex. Maybe only you with James and every other artist involved. We were happy to say, look, there's 3 or 4 sentences. Take it from there. Yeah. But you need to be bounded.
Oh. Okay.
Anyway, right. So So for Milne meets the eye, it's the full script method. It's about 50 pages produced, which then goes to Alex. And we've done this in a sort of roundabout way in terms of the process, but Alex or other artists will translate. And then depending on the time, as James said, you would get. I mean, the issue that we're working on now, it's Alex isn't drawing this particular issue, but we're getting layouts back, or sometimes you get multiple choices. Here's a page, notwithstanding that it's been worked off a full script. Here's several ways you could do it, which works for you, and then John and I will choose, and then you'll get a sort of more detailed pencils page back, pencils page, and there's still scope to adjust. The pencil pages are produced, they're inked. Alex nearly always does his own. And then passed to the colorists, and then of course to the letterers, and this is where we're going to wrap it up and go to Q&A. Then you'll get back essentially a proofread version. So you'll get the as close to what the comic is going to look like when it is printed. So it will be penciled, inked, coloured, lettered. Comes back to everyone involved in that creative process to sort of give it the sign off. So sometimes, I mean, at that stage it is difficult. Some things are easier to change than others. Lettering, the lettering is the easiest to change. There is scope to change the colours sometimes as well. Bearing in mind the ticking clock. It's harder, isn't it, Alex? At that point too.
What you gotta say? You're forgetting one key thing. When we get that printer proof, and we all wait for your email back.
Go on.
I just wait for the email to see like the page by page breakdown of the dialogue changes from the original script.
This is very. I hope you can sense the harmony in our working relationship coming off.
I just think it's funny because I don't have to deal with much about that, but John was just like, I wonder if he's like, oh my God, James, what are you doing? This book needs to go to print.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what you're hearing from Alex here, it's like a married couple having an argument now. I think what Alex is trying to say is no.
Well, that we just try and make the best product possible.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's I am self-aware here. I do know that when we get the printer proof back and it's the last opportunity to make it right, then I will be absolutely damn sure that it is right, in my eyes at least. And so it is not uncommon for me to pass back, about 70 or 80 notes. Well, I mean, they're all of importance to me. But some are more important than others. It's principally around the dialogue changes. Sometimes it can be as detailed as change the ellipsis to an M dash or something, or reposition the speech balloon and stuff like that. Just to make it right. And again, more than meets the eye. It's an intensely dense book in terms of the information, not just the dialogue, but the information it conveys and how it needs to be put across. And so we've got to get it right. But Alex is right. I mean, it's not just constrained to the dialogue. We all want it to be the best, and it's not just Milne meets the eye, but just the comics that we're involved in creating. You do want them to be as best as they can, given the time.
Yeah, with the printer proof, that's the time that if we see anything wrong with the artwork, if we can change it, if it's not something that we missed, that's the time that we would change it. I know there have been times that there has been a character that I guess I drew not familiar for Joanna, and she's miscolored, and I'll be like, "Sorry, Joanna, I don't mean to bug you, but can you change that? It's not gonna be too much work. Don't hit me." She's always very polite. She's like, "No," and I'm thinking back in my head, she's like, "That motherfucker, I'm gonna kill him."
That's like me and my wife. She's not here.
And so for all that, for all the checking, I mean, things still get through. A typo gets through, or a balloon is misattributed.
Or the opening page to Spotlight RC is not replaced when I email the editors 50 times to let them know that there's a page I worked on for a whole month.
But Chris Rao did show that page off on his blog.
He did show that page off on his blog.
So they knew about it.
And it never made it to print. And it looks so good too.
I feel like we're speaking out of turn now. It's like suddenly all the editors are going to come through the door and.
Hey, you can't talk about us.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, sorry. So that's the process, and not necessarily a linear way, but that's where we get to that's how the product is put out there. So please save us from ourselves and ask us questions
Yes,
about.
please, please.